From WCI3 Plus, with your host Kevin Lighty, this is Behind the Forecast.
Everybody, welcome back. It is another Behind the Forecast. I'm WCA3 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty. Thank you again for joining us. I hope we're building up a nice little crowd here. You guys kind of seeing what we're trying to do, showing the viral videos to always kick off the show, and then doing a nice little interview with somebody in the community that is impacted by the weather. It's got some knowledge about weather and give you a little bit of a behind the scenes on how that impacts them. But as I mentioned, we always start the show off first with our viral videos of the week. So let's get to it. Video number one coming at you here. Looking at flooding. Had a lot of flooding here during the course of this summer. We've talked about it so many times, and here we go again. This is New Mexico. Look at this dramatic video of floodwaters down in New Mexico. Lots of heavy rainfall down there triggering flash floods. And you can just look at that. Look how disgusting that water is. That, black, murky water that's coming through. So powerful. Lots of flooding down there along the Sierra Blanca mountain range that is in south central New Mexico, south of Albuquerque. So again, flooding has obviously been such a huge thing during the course of this summer, and it continues. All right, let's go on to video number two. And this one, boy, it's the summer of fires and flooding. California, once again, firefighters out there trying to put out a brush fire in Montecito Heights area. That was this past Saturday. Fires down there causing issues, as they have been so often here this summer. Boy, they're trying to do this on these hills too. You can see this is on a uphill, trying to battle this brush fire. They've got the helicopters out there doing what they can to try to fuel those, or I should say fan the flames, not fuel them, but try to take care of it with some of that fire retardant stuff that they drop from the aircrafts there. So been a big problem there in California, as it always seems to be, but hopefully they can get through yet again another fire down there. All right, video number three, tornado. This actually is a tornado from Watertown, South Dakota that occurred this past Sunday. Weather Service there tracking this tornado near the Watertown area again for about a week ago. You can see it off there in the distance. Lots of chasers are out there trying to track this, but this is the time of the year that the severe weather threat actually shifts a little bit to the north, and so that is where that kind of really has been over the last week or so, is across the northern part of the country, where the jet stream has been positioned a little bit more just to our north as well. All right, let's switch over to video number four. So again, I always like to do still some science related, maybe sometimes space related stuff. So Australia trying to fire off their first Australian-made rocket to reach orbit. And guess what? After about 14 seconds of flight, she didn't make it. Falling back down to the surface there. No one was hurt with this, but obviously, boy, early on in a space mission, crew, you're going to have some of those accidents and hopefully learn from those. But a little trouble there, obviously, trying to launch off there. We'll show it to you from another angle here. But space flight is hard. And as so many have learned over the years, didn't make it so high. And then you can see it. Tries is kind of hanging there. You got to remember how heavy those rockets are, too, when they're trying to fire off like that. All right, video number five. So this recently here, this is just wild. Okay, what you're looking at here are basically sea lions, okay, that we had this huge earthquake. You may have heard of it, okay? It was an 8.8 earthquake off of the Russian coast. And so these are sea lions that are reacting to this as the rocks come falling off of that, I don't know if it's kind of a mountain that's right there, but obviously off the hill, coming down at them, and they're like, we're getting out of here. And so you can see all of them, hopping off of the rocks and then getting into the water. It's always kind of been said that, animals really have this weird instinct about them, and they kind of know when things are coming, but obviously the rock's probably also tipping them off to that as well. But again, Fortunately, okay, there was not a massive tsunami that hit Hawaii. Did not, come all the way to the west coast of the United States, so kind of spared there. But definitely something, that kind of caught us all off guard because it's hard to predict earthquakes. And an 8.8 earthquake that we had, that's the 6th strongest ever to have that earthquake. So pretty wild stuff there. Okay, guys, that is going to wrap up our viral videos, but we've got much more coming up. We're going to sit down with John Dwyer. He is the Champaign County Emergency Management Agency Coordinator, and we're going to talk to him about managing all kinds of emergencies in the Champaign County area. That's coming up next. Everybody, welcome back in. It is another edition of Behind the Forecast. I'm WCA3 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty, and today we are excited to have in studio a man that knows a lot about the weather, man that knows a lot about emergency management. The man is John Dwyer, who is the Champaign County Emergency Management Coordinator. Did I?
Agency coordinator.
Agency coordinator. Okay. You see, you have the longest title, I think, out of anybody in Champaign County. Is that accurate? You think?
Maybe.
He's like maybe.
That's why I say EMA.
EMA.
Yeah.
Shorten it up.
Yes.
So there you go. So John is here with us today. Gonna talk about some different topics here when it comes to weather, Champaign County, a lot of things. And I tell you what, John, let's start out with something that you deal with a lot, and you coordinate and have been in charge of, and seeming there's always some kind of sometimes questions about, and it's outdoor warning sirens. There's always questions about our outdoor warning sirens for some reason, even though they've been around for a really long time. We're going to talk about that. That'll be our first topic, but I want you to tell people a little bit more about yourself, your background, and kind of how you got into emergency management.
Okay. My background is when I graduated from the Virginia Military Institute in 1996, I went on to active duty with the Air Force. I was an officer on active duty for 7 years, and then I got out of the active duty and went into reserves in Indiana. My wife came back. Wife and I came back for her to attend the University of Illinois under the Veterans Grant to get a master's in civil engineering. And I found a job at the health department being an emergency response planner for pandemic flu, bioterrorism grants, and then I eventually got into emergency management at the county in 2011 as a deputy director, and then 2013 I became the emergency management agency director, and then later on they changed it to coordinator. So I've been the coordinator since 2013, so that's about 12 years. I'm still in the service part-time as an Illinois Air National Guardsman with the Joint Force Headquarters out of Springfield, Illinois. As of right now, I've got 29 years of military.
Thank you for your service,
thanks.
By the way.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate that. Boy, so you've done a lot. You've seen a lot in your years.
Yes. It didn't help that within 6 months of being the coordinator, that we had to give for tornado. 2013,
right?
Had to give for tornado. So
that was your baptism by fire,
yes,
then, right?
Yes.
Wow.
And I like to tell people my favorite thing about the Gifford tornado. We're going through a lot of chaos with the damage assessment and making sure people got evacuated that needed medical attention. But I will still say to this day, my favorite part, even though it was a lot of chaos, was when within hours of us responding, the coroner showed up to the mobile command post, and I told him we didn't need him. Get out of here. So that's
pretty amazing that EF3 tornado resulted in no deaths.
Yes.
And thinking back to that November day, pretty wild.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Well, you've done a lot between now and then as well. And let's go back to the topic. They're talking about, outdoor warning sirens. And seemingly there's always, I don't want to say controversy, but there's always something that happens, or there's a question or a misunderstanding about them. Give me your kind of just outdoor warning siren thoughts?
So outdoor warning sirens are for people that are outdoors. They sound for tornadic activity that's been confirmed or by the Weather Service or by a trained weather spotter, as well as thunderstorms with destructive capability nomenclature. Back in 2019, 2020, we upgraded a majority of the sirens in Champaign, in the county, to include Champaign, Urbana, U of I, and Savoy, to where they were switched over from analog to digital. Plus, the system that we have does daily tests to see if the sirens are working. They're silent tests. So if there is a weather warning box that hits the area that's designated, the sirens will sound. So we have backups with the sirens that we can also do it manually via radio or even a phone app, or I can do it from a laptop computer. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, Fisher had a tornadic or activity or a warning box, and I was able to set their sirens off by request with my computer in Springfield when I was on military duty.
How about that?
Yeah.
But you guys are super lucky in that you have that.
Yes.
There are a lot of towns, municipalities, counties that don't.
And sirens don't cover the whole county. They cover certain populated areas. There's no mandate to have outdoor warning sirens. So they are somewhat of they're a good thing to have, but not every county or city has sirens that cover everything in the state of Illinois.
I think a lot of people don't realize that. There are some places that said, we're done. We're not even going to use the sirens anymore.
Right.
And within 40 minutes of where we are in Champaign here, that's the thing. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
No. And it took the jurisdictions of Champaign, Urbana, U of I, and Savoy working together to fund this project in different pieces, parts, to where we have an updated system that can warn the public in a timely manner. Whereas before, it was a physical box that you had to turn the key. We still have that, but now with this automatic, when the sirens or when the Weather Service puts a warning box over the designated area, all the sirens will sound for that area. So it has worked.
And you start sounding the sirens now for not just tornadoes, right?
Right, for the destructive thunderstorms that have that destructive nomenclature. That was something we went back when we initially upgraded the system. The question came, do we do it for thunderstorms? And we couldn't decide. I said the policymakers were having a difficulty deciding whether it was wind gusts, was it sustained. And then when the Weather Service came out with the destructive capability, and then the software company and the siren company came up and said, hey, look, we can start automatically generating the warning based on that for your system. Do you want it? And they all agreed, let's do that. So the first ratio, we didn't have it. But the second ratio, they did go off. And matter of fact, you were on the air and you heard, or luckily they were going off and you heard them indoors, which you're not supposed to hear, but you did. We were an hour or 45 minutes out of it, and you even said, hey, look, it's coming. So we gave people as much warning as we could. It was pretty clear out, but as it came, we had 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. We had a lot of tree damage throughout the county. So I appreciated that you had told the public, hey, there's on the newscast that, hey, this is why the sirens are going off.
Yeah,
so.
and just trying to get everybody to understand, what they mean, because some people may, be from out of town. U of I students, they may be, just moved here, or maybe from another town or city that has a different policy on things. So educating the public about all that obviously really important.
And we also have worked with the New American Welcome Center about siren, what our siren protocols are, to translate it in other languages for our immigrants that come in the community. So that way they know what they mean and how to prepare as well. So I would be remiss if I didn't say we also get questions about why the sirens are going off so much. Our sirens are only go off the first Tuesday of the month at 10 o'clock, and then if there's actual storm activity. However, there are similar lightning detectors that maybe the park district or some schools have that sound similar, but they're very different. Those will go off if there's lightning in a certain amount of radius. They sound similar, but they are not the same. So.
Gotcha. So a lot of siren talk there. Let's pivot a little bit here, and just talk a little bit more about your job here. What would you find? What do you think is most difficult for you in your job? What are some of the hurdles or things that you have, or things that that you deal with that, as a emergency management coordinator, is difficult for you?
I would say reaching everybody, whether English is a second language, also trying to work with those who have access or functional needs. We want to make sure they're taken care of. When the Gifford tornado happened, one of the lessons learned was we didn't necessarily, as a community, account for everybody that left Gifford. They were entitled to as much as assistance, and they may not have gotten it because they left the area and we didn't know how to get in touch with them. So disasters don't discriminate based on age, race, income level. They affect everybody, but how you are before the disaster will probably determine how you're going to be after. So if you don't have any savings, you don't have transportation, it's going to make things worse. So trying to take care of everybody that we can after the event. And that's where we also stressed with people to be prepared as much as you can. That way the responders can take care of those who may not be able to take care of themselves.
Talk about your relationship that the emergency management team there and you guys have with media, the weather service, other partners, and kind of how that all kind of fits together.
We work with everyone, or a lot of first responder agencies and private businesses and non-government agencies. So you're part of the whole. They're part of the whole community. They all have a part in preparing, responding, or even mitigating some disasters. So we work with law enforcement, fire departments. There's been times when we had hazmat spills on the interstate or out in the community. We'll call the weather service to say what's the forecast if the hazmat plume changes directions. Do we need to evacuate certain areas? Or talking with the weather service about the county fair, about what the heat's going to be, and working with Carl EMS to say, hey, do we have cooling stations? Do we have ways to cool people down, things like that? And also working with the fair to make sure that they know it's going to be hot, or even the antique tractor show up in Penfield. Do they have a weather alert radio? Do they have someone that can receive weather alerts? And then also working with different jurisdictions, villages, the cities, ensuring that they can be as resilient as they can. And then if there was an incident or disaster emergency, weather related or otherwise, are they getting assistance from outside agencies, both not just local, but state, and then if it meets a certain threshold, the federal level. So we're not in charge. Emergency management's not in charge. We're behind the scenes coordinating as many things we can to support
any kind of disaster,
the recovery, yeah,
and whatnot.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of people just think of it as weather, but you encompass so many things.
So the
crisis.
So we just had the water issue in Coles County. So their hospital, Sarah Bush, is part of our healthcare coalition. So the question came up, where can they get hand washing stations? Well, they can either rent them, or even, believe it or not, knowing some of our community members, such as the seed corn companies, they had portable hand washing stations because they put them out there for detasseling. Oh. Because they also have porta potties.
Sure.
So it's one of those things, asking them, hey, could you help out? Possibly, So it's knowing where things are at to try to alleviate the stress of the situation or take care of the people.
Wow, that's super interesting there. So doing a lot. We're with John Dwyer, Champaign County Emergency Management Coordinator Agency, something in there. I'll get it right by the end of the show here. I guess, what is your kind of overarching kind of message to people in terms of preparedness and whatnot? Because that's kind of, what you guys preach a lot to is preparedness, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Boy Scouts, be prepared, but be able to receive alerts and warnings, know what you're going to do when you receive the warnings or watches, start preparing, take care of yourself, but also take care of your neighbor. If there's an elderly person or maybe someone who doesn't understand what things are going on. And it's about helping each other out, because we're all one community. And do what you can for your neighbors, but also take care of yourself. Take pictures of your homes, your belongings, just in case. I always tell people that one of the things I heard from Gifford is, have a thumb drive with all your papers, your birth certificates, your insurance policies, military documents, things like that. Copies work wonders, but make sure if you put it on electronic media that it's also password protected. But what happened in Gifford and the other tornado affected areas, certain insurance companies would show up and say, "Hey, I'm here to help," and the complaint was it wasn't that home agency. So the first thing they ask is, "Okay, do you have a copy of your policy?" Well, my home just got destroyed. I don't have any of those papers. So it kind of, shot records, pet records, things like that, to have backup copies of those things, because you'll never know when you need them. And then also pictures, your loved ones, family pictures. One of kind of photos, make sure you've got backups of those, maybe a hard drive in a safe or something.
Sure.
So.
Prepared's the key thing there, and not getting caught off guard. Because I think the thing that, and I'm sure when you've come upon scenes and whatnot where bad things have happened, the overarching thing a lot of people always say is, "I didn't think it would happen to me."
Right. Or looking at Texas, what happened with the warnings and the watches, and some people said, "I didn't get the warning," or "I got it, but I didn't didn't think it was going to be that bad." It's kind of history repeating itself. Back in Joplin, when I first got into formal emergency management with the county, it was right after the Joplin tornado. So I went to a few conferences, and we had speakers from Joplin. And there's a report out there. It took people, on average, 7 warnings to take action. So that's listening to those 7 could be, hearing it on the news, getting the alert on your phone, or seeing it on social media. So it takes a lot for people to react. And maybe you get a flood watch warning and you look outside and there's no water. Then all of a sudden, when it's rushing downhill, it's too late.
Boom, it's right there. Yeah. So we're getting ready to wrap things up here, but let's talk a little bit about your favorite thing about your job. What is your favorite thing about your job, what you get to do, or maybe something you've done during your time there doing emergency management? Anything come to mind, or anything that you really have a passion for, you really have enjoyed being able to get to do?
I would say it's helping people, whether it's those who are affected by emergencies, but also helping our great first responders in the community. Anything I can do to alleviate their job or take something on that they might not have thought about. We've got great law enforcement, the great EMS, of course, we got great fire departments or here in the county and then the metro area. So anything I can do to help them, as well as also those who are impacted by weather. that's the favorite part of my job.
Well, there you go. Well, awesome. John, listen, we appreciate you stopping in here, letting us kind of talk to you for a little bit here. Boy, I told you that. It went by like that, didn't it?
It did go by fast.
It went by like that. It's what we always tell our guests here. I'm telling you, it goes by pretty quick. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. John Dwyer, would you come back maybe in a few months down the road? Maybe we can hash out some other topics and things?
Yes.
Like a plan? Okay, there you go.
As long as we could talk about the Cubs winning the World Series.
Yeah, listen, I tell you what, book it. We'll bring him back here. Bring him back here in late October, right? And talk about our Cubbies, hopefully. So there you go. John Dwyer there with the Champaign County Emergency Management Agency. He's the coordinator.
Yeah.
So there we go. We nailed it there. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Behind the Forecast. I appreciate you guys tuning in here, and catch us again next week for another show. Hope y'all have a great rest of your night.